Hi, my name is John Gray, and I'm going to talk today about Windows 2000 Professional. I'm a group program manager in the Windows Development Group. I've been doing this job for about the last 7 years. The Windows 2000 family consists of 4 basic products, but today we're going to focus on just the Windows 2000 Professional. We're thinking about it as a product in a standalone environment as well as in an environment where it exists with Windows 2000 servers. What we want you to think about today is using Windows 2000 Professional as the replacement for all the desktop versions of Windows in your organization. So what happens is there's benefits to using Windows 2000 if you're not deploying the server. There's benefits to using Windows 2000 Professional in an environment that has Windows 2000 servers. So we need to look at both of those, and today we're going to focus mostly on some of the features and benefits and things that are in Windows 2000 Professional that don't necessarily depend on the Windows 2000 Server family of products. One of the things that we get from a lot of customers when they're talking about Windows 2000 is they think that you need to deploy both together, or that there's really no benefit in Windows 2000 Professional without the server. Even if you're not deploying the server or doing the infrastructure, I think there's still a lot of benefits to think about using Windows 2000 Professional. When we're talking about Windows 2000 Professional, it's a good idea to step back and take a look at the big picture, to think about the 5 things that make up Windows 2000 Professional. We'll then use these as we go forward in talking about the different features, and you can see how these 5 benefits tie into the different features that we've developed for the product. The first thing to think about Windows 2000 Professional is that it brings the best of Windows 98. The plug and play, the advanced configuration and power interface, the new buses support for USB and 1394, the latest in DirectX support, and the integrated browser and shell that we've developed for Windows 95 and Windows 98. So it brings all these together in one product. It also offers the best in broad driver support, the latest device support for a broad array of classes such as displays, printers, digital cameras, sound devices, network interface cards. We have a great out-of-the-box device support picture, and it's also easy to add new hardware to Windows 2000 Professional. So if you're managing a system, having the hardware support for all of your existing hardware is a big plus when you're deploying Windows 90 or Windows 2000. It also brings enhanced ease of use. Ease of use is something that it's tossed around a lot, and one of the best ways to think about it is that ease of use is how do I do something? If you can figure out how to do it yourself, or your users can figure out how to do it themselves, that's going to make the system easier to use if they don't have to go ask somebody. Frequently with Windows NT 4, you have to learn from other people, and we've tried to build into Windows 2000 ways for people to find and use things and make it natural to do different things. So what this enhanced ease of use means is that we've brought in the latest in the shell technologies. We've done significant improvements in the network user interface. And we've also done things like made so the system has to reboot fewer times when you're changing the configuration, which reduces the time necessary to do that sort of thing. We've also worked on lowering the total cost of ownership, and this is another term that's pretty broadly used, but some specific examples are the system file protection, where we prevent the system from getting out-of-date system DLLs and files by making sure that we always have a known set. It's easier to deploy, so if your cost of ownership includes deployment costs, we have Setup Manager and the System Preparation Utility. And finally, it includes the Windows Installer service, and this service is a service provided for applications to make it easier for both applications to install and for system administrators to use on a server-based environment to publish applications. And the last thing that Windows 2000 brings to the big picture is the NT's traditional power, and in this case we're talking about better reliability, security, performance, and stability. So it's built on the basis of Windows NT, but it's got all the best features that we've been working on for the last few years. A lot of people want to know what are the basic system requirements for Windows 2000 Professional. Certainly each family has its own requirements. One of the things to think about in system performance is that Windows 2000 will have better performance than Windows NT W4 on the same hardware if you have enough RAM. Enough RAM is generally in the 64 to 128 megabyte range. The minimum hardware configuration for Windows 2000 Professional is an Intel-based Pentium-compatible 133 or higher. We do support two-way symmetric multiprocessing in the Windows 2000 Professional box. RAM, we recommend 64 meg. The minimum requirement is 32. And for a hard disk, It takes about 650, maybe a little bit more, depending on some of your current system configurations, to install, and then it ends up taking up a little under 500 megabytes of total disk space. So those are the things you should use when you're planning your deployments. If you're looking at new PCs, if you're buying new PCs today that are coming, you're planning on deploying Windows 2000 Professional on at a later date, you should take a look at your system vendor's website. Most of the system vendors are participating in the Windows 2000 Ready program, and the Windows 2000 PC Ready program sets a little bit higher bar of a Pentium 300, 64 meg, and a few other things. And one of the benefits of looking at the Ready program PCs is that they should give you the smoothest upgrade when you go to deploy Windows 2000 Professional. So the first experience most people will have with Windows 2000 will be that they go to set it up on one of their systems. So let's start with talking about what are our setup design goals. The first thing is that it needs to be simple and it needs to be reliable. Above all, if you can't get through setup and you can't get the system set up with Windows 2000, you're not going to have a very pleasant experience using it. So those are kind of the first things we want to do. But the other thing that setup is used for is pre-installation on new PCs and deployment for existing corporations. And it's basically the same thing. It's how do you prepare a system and deploy it broadly. One of the things that we've done here is we've added more customization options to the deployment. We've worked to reduce the deployment time by enhancing our tools and providing different deployment options. We support disk duplication using the sysprep utility. We want to ensure as a goal for setup that we can 100% automate setup of Windows 2000 Professional on mass duplicated workstations, so that if you're trying to deploy in a large organization, you don't have to go out and manually touch every workstation. And then the last thing we've done that will sort of be a big benefit as we go on down the road is the ability to service pack slipstream. And what this means is that if you have a deployment server with the images or the files for Windows 2000 Professional, you'll be able to add the service pack to that and then run setup once or rerun setup from a slipstreamed image, and that way you don't have to reapply service packs and hotfixes at a later time after you do the initial setup at a later time. So if you're thinking about deployment, then you're thinking about one of several things. You may be thinking about upgrading your existing systems. We support upgrade of Windows 90X, which means 95 and 98, or Windows NT4 in place. That means that it saves the user's settings, the user's data. It just migrates all the applications possible and all the settings into the new Windows 2000 system. So this is classically what you think about, where you go up to a system, you plug in a CD or you connect to a NetShare, and you just run the upgrade in place. We also offer unattended script options, and you can use the Setup Manager tool to help create these unattended scripts, and you can use these to either deploy an upgrade or to do clean installed systems. On the clean install side, we offer disk duplication using sysprep. This is a case where you might have a loading dock where your new PCs are coming in and you're preparing to deploy them to employees, and you want to put a standard image on them, or you may want to go in deploying to existing users, back up their data and basically give them just a new, clean, fresh image. So the benefits of using a disk duplication scheme are that it's the fastest deployment possible, just a few minutes to replace the image of the disk and you're up and running. But the downside is if you're doing it in an upgrade scenario with a user that is already running the system, you do need to preserve their user data and some of their settings. So it's got a lot of benefits, but it has limited applications. The final thing that's of interest is the remote install service, or RIS, which is one of the things that does actually require a Windows 2000 server in the environment. But it allows you to boot from a floppy or directly from many PCs from the network controller card. And then you can run this utility that will automatically download and install on a system. So your system can be ready to go right out of the box without having to do anything. And then the fifth way to deploy will be to use Systems Management Server. Let me take a few minutes and dive deeper into upgrading. What do we support for the upgrade? For NTW, we support NT351 or NT4. By far, you've probably heard the message that the smoothest upgrade to Windows 2000 Professional will be through NTW4. If you're running NTW4, which is the same basic operating system, the same basic applications, when you upgrade, you have the highest percentage of success in getting all the applications, all the data, and everything to migrate and operate smoothly. So that's why we recommend to people that if they're thinking about Windows 2000 today, that they go ahead and start with a Windows NT workstation product. We also upgrade all of the released versions of Windows 95 and 98. the OEM service releases, the Windows 98 and Windows 98 Second Edition. So we can also upgrade those in place. On the Windows 9X family upgrades, we do what we call a pre-upgrade check, and this means at the beginning of setup, the system goes out and evaluates what hardware is in place, what device drivers are in place, and then it takes a look at the software that's installed on the system. And it does part of this from a list of known issues, and it also can go out and look at the software that's on the system and do some system level tests and determine what's there and what might be a compatibility problem. It then can present this data to you in a report format and also save it to disk so you can look at it later. That tells you what you might want to do before you go through the upgrade process. So the upgrade check is something that's very valuable in looking at a deployment on a system, especially if you're looking at deploying it across a lot of systems. If you're doing automated deployments and you already know what you're going to see, you can suppress this so that the users don't see it. So then the next thing we do is we attempt to preserve the system and user state. This means the settings, the data, everything that makes that machine personalized to that user. What the file system they're using, what the drive letters, the user accounts that are on that machine. So that's sort of the upgrade in place. One of the things that we've had to deal with is in upgrading a Windows 9X family machine to a Windows 2000 machine. A lot of applications install differently when they install on Windows 95 or 98 versus the way they install on NT4. They in fact install different binaries. They use different registry settings. And so you can't just replace the operating system and have it work. You actually have to sort of adapt or convert the applications to the new way to do it. We've provided a way for software vendors to do what's called a migration DLL, which will, during the upgrade, do these conversions of the binaries and of the registry settings so that the application will work with Windows 2000. We have a number of these included with the operating system that ship with it for a lot of the major software vendors. But there's a lot of applications that have been deployed in corporations that are internal business apps, line of business apps developed by the IT department. And so we've made this extension mechanism available to anybody, and you can actually add these migration DLLs to your deployment image if you're deploying this in a corporate environment. We have a URL here in the slide deck that will give you more information about how to write to a migration DLL interface and what to do to test it. So if you need to do that to migrate Windows 95 machines, I suggest you look into that. The final thing I want to talk about is sort of a gotcha. Upgrading is tough. I've talked about some of the sort of limitations with device drivers, with applications, and things like that. We do a great job upgrading NTW4. We do a pretty darn good job upgrading the Windows 98 machines, but it's not always going to be perfect. If you have the opportunity to do a clean install and start with a fresh image where you can manage that image, that might be the best for you. If reducing the cost of deployment for you is using upgrades in place, then we certainly support it. But upgrading is one of those things where there's so many different variables. We may not get it perfect. We try hard. We've worked through millions of issues with our beta testers and our own internal testing. But I suggest if you're doing this in a corporate environment that you do a few test upgrades yourself first. Okay, let's take a second to take a look at an example of the Windows 98 upgrade report. On this machine, we've already started setup, and we've run through the upgrade of a Windows 98 machine until it reaches the point where it tells me here's the upgrade. In this case, we've found two different areas where the upgrade check tool has indicated that there may be problems that you should be aware of or you may need to take some actions. One of them has to do with some of the hardware that's installed on this system. One of them has to do with some general information about some software. So as you scroll down in the list, you can see that the hardware section of the compatibility report talks about some incompatible hardware that is found. In this case, it tells me the device that it's found and says that it's not sure it's going to work until you go out and get additional drivers for this device, so you might want to make sure you have them available. So that's a good warning before you go with the upgrade that you may need to get some drivers. In the general information, it's provided some information about the Windows 98 upgrade backup files, the dial-up server that was configured on this machine so that people could dial into the Windows 98 machine will need to be reconfigured and re-enabled once the upgrade is complete, because Windows 2000 does it in a different way and with a different level of security. And Windows messaging, this contains an older version of the MAPI drivers, and so you will need to reinstall the program that uses MAPI or the mail services, Windows messaging. And that's all there is to it. And from there, you can it's already saved to the disk. You can save it somewhere else. You can print it. Or you can just hit next and continue with the upgrade. So one of the things that's sort of in the setup category is some of the diagnostics and troubleshooting techniques we have for solving problems if you do have a problem with your system. The first one of these is Safe Boot. We've added the capability, very similar to what Windows 95 and 98 have, to boot into a mode where the absolute minimum number of device drivers and system utilities are loaded, but it gets you up into the graphical user interface, and you can then do some troubleshooting and device management that way. It's accessed using the F8 key right at the beginning of the boot sequence, the same as with the Windows 9X family. When you're booting in safe mode, you have a number of different options, from the basic safe mode boot, adding networking, booting to the command prompt, and then the conventional last known good configuration from Windows NT4. When you're in safe mode, it's got a banner on the screen and an environment variable if you need any scripts to depend on whether they're in safe mode or not. So that's one method to sort of recover from diagnostics. Something that's brand new to the Windows NT family, to Windows 2000, is the command console boot. And at first blush, this looks a little bit like booting to MS-DOS in the Windows 9X family, but it's actually booting to a limited functionality Windows 2000 kernel. And it allows a system administrator, a local administrator, to access a failed Windows NT system for repair purposes. And you can get to both FAT, FAT32, or NTFS partitions. This eliminates the need that a lot of corporations have found to keep a FAT boot partition so that they can use a boot floppy to access the system for troubleshooting, because now you can access the NTFS partitions in a secure manner. The commands include format fdisk, you can fix the master boot record, you can fix up the boot ini file. There's a lot of capability here, but it's not intended to be a program execution environment. So you can't run third-party programs. It's not like MS-DOS where it's an operating system. It's a diagnostic. What you want to do to get to the command console is, the best way to do it is to go straight from the CD. You boot from the CD and run the text mode setup, and in the first couple of screens you have the option to run the command console for diagnostic purposes. So you don't need to install anything on a user system to be able to use the command console. There is a way that you can do it for demo purposes, where you run Win2000 with an option command console to install this on a hard disk, and then you always have it available without the CD on boot. But for your normal users, you wouldn't want to do that. You just boot straight from the CD or from the floppy disks to get to this mode. Okay, so here I've got a system that's booted to the Microsoft Windows 2000 Recovery Console. The Recovery Console provides system repair and recovery functionality. So it's going to boot up, and if I have more than one Windows 2000 installation, it will offer me a choice of which installation do I want to boot into to repair. In this case, I only have one. It's on D in the Windows directory. So I'll choose that by selecting 1 and then hitting the Enter key. And from there it's going to go out and check that installation, and it's going to ask me for the local machine administrator password. So I'm going to go ahead and type the local machine administrator password in, and then it's going to log me in as local admin to the D Windows directory. From here I can run a series of commands. The quickest way to see what commands are available is just to type in help and hit enter, and you'll see all of the commands that are available for the recovery console. So if you want to see a specific example, for instance, fix boot, which is used to write a new boot sector, you can read about that and the parameters that it uses. There's a lot of commands in here that are designed to repair the system, and the best documentation is the online help file right here. So that's how you would get into the recovery console. You can use it to change files on the system, fix the system, if you can't boot into the safe mode boot from the GUI. Next thing we'll talk about, once you've got setup done and you've gotten through any diagnostics you need to do, is the first thing you're going to see is the new shell for Windows 2000. This is the same basic shell code that has evolved since Windows 95, Windows NT4's shell, and Windows 98, and this is just an evolutionary enhanced version of the shell. So it's going to be familiar to your users that are used to the Windows NT4 or Windows 98 shells, but at the same time it's going to have some new features that make it easier to use and add power to it. So what I want to do is highlight a couple of those so that you can sort of explore what some of the features are, and then you and your users can take advantage of them. The first thing we have is the next generation web integration with the latest version of the IE5 technologies. And the web integration gives you a lot of power in both displaying content locally, displaying content from your network, and displaying content from the internet if you have those access. Another thing we have is adaptive menus. Adaptive menus, if you see a lot of PCs that you open the start menu and it just has 35 things in a list, and then several submenus, and each of those have 35 things, and it just fills up the screen. And a lot of new PCs come that way. That tends to baffle a lot of users. They just never go down and explore any of those features or programs that are installed on their systems. They just don't need to use a lot of the advanced technology that's available. But it does slow them down because they're always searching. You know, you've got to go read a long list of things to see where you're going. So adaptive menus means that we collapse out the items that you haven't used frequently and just give you a nice short list of the things you use most frequently. It's still easy to get to the additional menu items. We offer balloon help that tells you, hey, once these are collapsed, you can go find them. But they're always there, but it does give you a shorter list. Some people prefer it. For those that don't like it, there's an easy way to turn it off on the taskbar properties, just like lots of things. So you can have it either way. I'm going to go through some of these others fairly quick. I've got 2 slides of shell enhancements. I'm going to hit on a couple of high points, and then if you want, you can drill into some of these later. I just wanted to give you as complete a list as I could put together on 2 slides. Some other things that we're going to try and demo for you is the new file open and printer dialogues, and why these give you benefits, why the enhanced navigation in the new file open and file print dialogues or printer dialogues make it easier for you to use your system, make it easier for users to find and save and manage their documents. File open, one of the things we've added is the ability to directly open FTP and HTTP sites. We've added some navigation on the side that helps out. In the printer file or the printer open dialog, there's the ability to add a printer right from that dialog. So if you are in a strange location and you go to print a document, say you're in another building in your company, you can just open that, add the new printer for a local printer, and away you go. My Documents is a pretty neat area to organize and keep all of your data in one place. It's sort of the primary place that your application should be putting user data, which then makes it easier to manage and back up that data. Also, it's easy to navigate to from the file open dialogues and from the desktop itself. Go on to the next list. Some more things we have are autocomplete everywhere. Autocomplete is the ability to type into the address bar on the Explorer or Internet Explorer menus or on the Start Run, and it'll actually fill in some of the text for you as you go based on some of the more recent things you've put in. Or if you're going to a network share and you're navigating to a network share, it'll actually go out and enumerate the shares and files on that network share as you type, so that you can just select from a list and go a lot faster. And some of these others we'll talk about in some of the demos. The consistent namespace means that you always have the same ordering for the desktop, the My Documents, the My Computer, My Network Places icons whenever you're in a view, so that you can always find them in the same place. That actually does help people out. We'll see a little bit of balloon-shaped tooltips and some other things during this shell demo. Okay, let's take a minute and take a look at some of the features that we've been talking about in the shell enhancements area. The adaptive menu feature is the one that shows you the menus for the items that you use most often. You'll see with the adaptive menus at the bottom of the screen I have a little double arrow chevron, and I can use that to expand the menu by hovering over it or clicking on it, and you can see the items that have been used less frequently. So it's an easy way to eliminate a lot of the clutter that you don't use and sort of keep your screen clean. For those of you that find that you tend to search menus more than knowing where you're going and you want to turn it off, you can do a properties on your taskbar, and you can turn off the Use Personalized Menu section right here, and that will take away the hidden items and show you the standard menus that you may be used to. The next thing I want to show you here is the new file open dialogues. It's open to any app that uses the standard Windows file open, file save dialogues. It comes up with a little bit of a new look. It's got the navigation bar on the left side, which allows you to quickly navigate to common places such as either My Desktop for people who store things on their desktop, or My Documents folder for people that actually store all of their files in the My Documents, or My Computer or My Network Places. One of the interesting things about the file open is it gives a good example of what we call the navigation namespace consistency. If you look on the left side, you've got desktop, my documents, my computer, my network places in that order. And then over here we've got the desktop, which is the actual desktop, and the first item in it is my documents, then my computer, and then my network places. So that's the default. When you look in a drop-down list in a file open or in lots of your applications, you'll also see the desktop hierarchy with my documents, my computer, the drives that are located inside of my computer, and my network places. So all of this provides a consistency that allows the user to get used to being able to look at things positionally in the same place instead of having to search through a list. And after you use it a few times, it just sort of naturally happens that you're able to find things faster. The file open dialog box also has the standard ability to add a new folder, so you can create something on the fly if you're navigating in it. You can also adjust the size, and this is actually a great feature. Once people start using the long file names, as they've been doing for the last 5 years, the more restrictive file open dialog boxes, you can lose some of the file names. So now you can stretch this dialog box to see more entries or longer file names. The related to the file open is the new print dialog box. So if I want to print this blank document here I've got open in Notepad, I can bring up the printer file open. Since today I'm making this presentation, I'm recording it in a different location than my office, the printer that I want to print to isn't here. So I can simply go to the Add New Printer wizard, which is right in the Print Open dialog box, and away I go with adding a new printer. The other way I can do a printer, if I'm on a network that has Active Directory deployed, I can use the Find Printer button here, and it will just bring up a simple search path that will tell me where to search in the directory for printers near me or in specific locations or with specific features. For instance, I could search on a color printer so that I could print a color copy of the slides that I've been talking to today. So these are some of the sort of neat features that you get in the new print dialog box that haven't been available previously, and it's just these little types of things that really make the system easier to use. The other thing that I like, and I think the My Documents folder really does give a good central place to manage your documents. I tend to store all of my documents in the My Documents folder from all of my applications, and then I can keep it synchronized between this machine and a network server with the offline files feature. Here I've got one file in here today, which is the presentation that I've been giving. And I also have a neat feature within My Documents, which is called My Pictures. My Pictures is a new feature in Windows 2000 that helps you to manage digital image and digital data. When you open the My Pictures folder, it will actually show you thumbnail prints. You can set it to do thumbnails or small images of your pictures. And if you hover or select one of the pictures, you can see that it comes up. It'll expand it on the preview pane. And the preview pane actually gives you the ability. The preview pane will actually give you the ability to zoom in on a picture, pan around on it, look at some of the details. So you can see I've got the plus selected, and I can zoom in, and you can look at this picture. This picture, as you can see, is a picture of a little bit of hailstorm that left a layer of snow here in Seattle in August. So kind of an interesting recent history event. The other things you can do here is you can see autocomplete everywhere. You've probably seen from within a standard Explorer window where you can type in the address bar, you can type in a uniform resource locator or a standard file name. So I'm going to do John Gray GX1, and then you can see it's filling in as I type, and it gives me the option to select. I can select with a backslash, and it will go out and enumerate what's out on that share, and I can actually navigate down. But we also support what we call autocomplete everywhere, and this is new to Windows 2000. You can now, off of the Start Run menu, you can do the same thing, and I can select the entry that I want, add the backslash, and it'll enumerate live across the net the set of files that are out there, and I can navigate, continuing to navigate down through the menu structure until I can't see any deeper. And so what I can do is now I can drag this box wider and longer, and I can see more entries, and I know that I want to show this picture, and then I can say open it. So that's a way, that's the same picture we were just looking at on another machine across the network using autocomplete everywhere. The other thing that, and I've got a bitmap shot of this coming up, but the My Network Places has Map Network Drive. Now, you've seen Map Network Drive before, and it's a fairly common feature for people to set a specific drive letter to be permanently mapped to a given network share. And I can certainly type in the network share right here. Maybe I can type in. And then I can go ahead and do it. But suppose that this SharePoint required different permissions, and I needed to log in with a different permissions. I'm using a friend's machine, and I have to log in as my name. I can just click on login as a different username, and I can change the credentials that are used to authenticate me against that SharePoint. The other thing you can do is you can actually create a shortcut automatically using this wizard to a FTP or web folder. So I can do FTP to our beta FTP site, and then log on, and I can say a username and then enter a name for it. And what it's going to do is create a shortcut to this directory in My Network Places. And then when I open My Network Places, you would see the shortcut there. It's also going to open that SharePoint. And here you see an example of FTP web folders. So I'm actually looking at an FTP share, but it looks like a folder view like I'm used to in Explorer. So one of the new features within FTP, the ability to map a share, create a SharePoint to an FTP site, and then see it and view it as if it were just a local hard disk. So that gives you a lot more consistency between an FTP and a standard server share naming convention. The last thing I want to do is show you the enhanced search that we've got. The search gives you a lot of options. In addition to searching for files or folders on my hard disk, I can search for web pages. I can search for printers. You saw that a minute ago. That's the same printer search. I can search for people using the Active Directory or the LDAP featured directories. But here I'm just going to search for a file. I'm going to search for a file or folder containing the word or named snow. We're going to look down here, and I'm only going to look on my D drive. Make the search a little bit quicker, and I say search now, and it's going to go out and search, and it'll show me all the files that contain the word snow in the title of the file that's on my D drive. Should come up here in a second, and there they come. So you can see the shortcuts that were created, and in a second it's going to go ahead and find the files themselves. And so here it's found the files, and I can actually click on a file and open it. I can delete it from this location. If, for instance, I wanted to search on large files, I can even right-click and open the containing folder and see the files that are there. So that's a pretty neat feature. I've got search options. You can see this little expanded search options here, which I can open or close. I can search on date, time, file size. I can turn on or off the indexing service so that the system can keep a background search running. I can set advanced search options. So this search pane gives you a lot of flexibility in controlling the power of a search, from a simple search for a file name or a file containing text to more advanced features where I search on file size or date. Within the window, you can of course sort by size or name or folder or any of the other column headings. And that's going to be it for the shell demos. Let's move on. Another example of something we've done, I've got a shot here, is the Map Network Drive. We've taken and put this into a simple single screen. In some of the early betas, we had it on 2 screens, and customer feedback said that they really wanted it on 1. So we've got a single screen for mapping a network drive that gives you the power of logging on as a different user, or gives you the power to connect directly to an FTP or HTTP folder as a mapped network drive letter. So some of the options at the bottom of the screen will give you the power that you're used to with NT, but at the same time has a simple user interface for most people. At the bottom is an example of a balloon tooltip. You'll see these pop up on the taskbar, on the start menu, a couple of other places, and it's just that little quick information. Goes away after a few seconds, gives your users a cue, helps people in transitioning to the new operating system, and that's the purpose behind that. Something we've gotten a lot of feedback in the past, and this is kind of more of a power user feature, but the file association support, the file open or file open with a different application. A lot of people, especially today where they're using graphic editors or HTML editors, will have several different programs that they want to open a given file type with. So we've enhanced the right-click file open functionality so that you can actually have multiple applications listed in there. And all you do is open a file type, right-click on it, and say Open With. Select the type of program you want to use, and then it'll show up on the list. Or if you install a program that wants to take over a file association, all of the other programs that can also use that file association will stay listed on the Open With dialog. So it's a quick way to get there. The second enhancement we've made to the file association support is in the Open With dialog. Instead of listing positively every single executable that's installed on the system and registered, we use the ones that are actually user programs. And we also use their friendly or username rather than the executable name. So the Open With dialog, when you get there, it's much easier to find Microsoft Outlook rather than Outlook.exe or some of the others were much more were much less obvious than that. And then finally, in the UI, another thing we've done is toolbar enhancements. The toolbars can now be dragged and dropped and moved around. You've probably seen this on the Windows 9X platform, where you can combine them on one line or have them on separate lines. And if you overload it, you get a drop down that allows you to get to all your options. So it's customizable and fully resizable. Let's move on to some of the technology areas. The shell is kind of the fun thing. It's the first thing people see. But let's talk about some of the other enhancements that if you're a system administrator or into the architecture you might find more interesting. The first thing we're going to talk about is storage and storage management. I know there's a number of talks that drill in much deeper detail into some of these areas, but I'm trying to give just a broad overview from a Windows 2000 professional point of view of some of these. We support the FAT32 file system for large FAT-based hard disks. We support the latest version of NTFS, which gives enhancements in the area of file security, disk property sets, disk quotas, and improved volume management. So NTFS has been enhanced with Windows 2000. We support the UDF format, which enables us to read the DVD devices, which gives you larger data storage as well as active content such as movies or presentations. We have a built-in disk defragmentation and a built-in backup utility so that you don't need to go out and buy third-party versions. Third-party versions may offer enhanced functionality. These are just a basic set, but they're on every system so that you always have them available. Shifting gears again, another area that we've enhanced is what we call our multi-language user interface. This is really something that is of significant interest to corporations that work in a multinational environment. It provides the ability to have what we call on-demand user interface so that a German-speaking person can walk up to a computer in a corporation that's using the multi-language user interface version of Windows 2000, log into the system, and they'll see their user interface in German. They'll see the menus, the help files, and dialog boxes will all come up in their native language. And you can shift between all 23 different languages that we ship for Windows 2000, including the Far East languages. We support over 60 languages as far as the ability to input, print, display, edit content. So there's over 60 languages that the Windows 2000 supports, but it's actually localized into 23 different languages as far as our translations. The multi-language user interface roams with user profiles so that if you go to different machines and you have roaming user profiles, it'll come up on your system as long as you're in an MUI environment. The multi-language user interface is based on an English base operating system, and then it converts the languages from there. So if you have an existing NT workstation that's in a localized or non-English version, you'll need to start out with a clean installation. But if you have English, you can install the multilingual on top of that. So what are the different versions? This kind of gets confusing, so we've put together a slide to try and help explain the differences in the multilingual support. Every single edition, every single language version of Windows 2000 supports inputting, typing, viewing, and printing in over 60 languages. So that's the standard English version, or the localized versions, French, German, Spanish, Japanese, Arabic. as well as the multilingual version. The user interface, the menus and things like that, are localized in the localized version. So if you're in a specific country and you're not going to need the ability to switch languages, you should use the specific localized version, such as German or Japanese for that country. So smaller companies, individuals, would certainly want to use the localized version over the multilingual version. But for large multinational corporations, the ability to switch languages dynamically, including the menus and help files, the benefit of being able to manage only one code base across different organizational units that are in different countries, and the ability, when we have service packs, to be able to deploy those service packs uniformly across the different countries. Those are all benefits that are brought by the multilingual version. So it's a little bit more difficult to choose this option because it takes more disk space, but it has a lot of benefits to these kind of companies. So I've talked about it on the last slide. Which version should I use? If you're single language English, then you should use the English version. If you're single language non-English, you should use that specific localized version. And if you're an enterprise where you're deploying across multiple countries, the multilingual version is the one you should probably be evaluating. Another area we've worked on a lot for Windows 2000 is performance improvements. We've taken a lot of different areas of the system and taken a close look and said, what can we do to make the operating system faster? Performance is kind of an interesting area because it's limited by certainly hardware is a controlling factor. The applications that you're using, the operating system can't necessarily speed up your applications. What we need to speed up with the operating system is cases where users are waiting for something, and cases where the application is requesting data from the operating system, either the file system or network, or displaying it to the user on a display or a printer device. So what we work to improve in the performance is things that prevent an application from operating at its maximum possible speed, or makes the user perceive that the system is slow. So the kind of things we've done in the sort of infrastructure, under the plumbing kind of things that make it work faster, is to work on the working set. As we've added features and functionalities, we've also worked on managing the working set of RAM usage so that the system doesn't take up a lot of RAM, and that leaves more for the applications, and that's a clear performance win. We've done some registry caching improvements so that as applications access the registry, they can do it faster. We've merged a bunch of our internal processes and services into just a couple of key files so that there are performance wins by having code sharing and fewer images loaded. We've worked on the TCP stack so that networking is faster. We've worked with drivers. Drivers are a key element of performance, your display drivers and your disk drivers. And so we've worked on those to really benchmark them and profile them and then work on the areas where we can. We've reduced the periodic system activity. We've improved boot and shutdown time, so the shutdown time is much faster. Boot is a little bit faster than Windows NT 4. We've also worked on reliability and supportability. And reliability is kind of a hard area to measure, but we've taken a lot of steps. We've been doing a lot of benchmarking with Windows NT 4 and with Windows 2000 to actually improve the reliability of the operating system over the NT's classic high availability. Many of these features, the first slide I'm going to talk about, all of these were actually included in Service Pack 4 of Windows NT 4, but they're also in Windows 2000, so that it's the kind of benefits that you get in both areas. The memory leak fixes, improved pool fixes, better device drivers, speeding up check disk so that you can get out of a reboot faster, and all of these are things that we've done. On Windows 2000 alone, we've done a lot more focused effort, and you can see the list is a little bit longer. We've eliminated over 75 operating system generated reboot scenarios, as well as worked on reducing the need for a lot of apps to do system reboots. So you should encourage your application vendors to not require a system reboot unless it's absolutely essential. A lot of applications will reboot after setup just to make sure that everything's installed properly, and that's not a good design goal for them. We've made driver improvements. We've done things with driver signing, where drivers that we ship can be signed with a digital signature so that you know that it's been tested for reliability and robustness. We've developed a driver verifier that ships with the operating system that device driver vendors can use, or help desk can use in troubleshooting a problem. And what driver verifier does is It constrains the driver and the memory that it can access and basically puts it under a stress situation so that if it's going to fault, it'll probably fault right away. So that we break it right away. That way the driver testers can find and fix their problems, and when your users get their drivers, they're robust and stable. We talked about some of the things earlier. Safe mode boot. Try that again. Safe mode boot. Safe mode boat sounds like something you want to go sailing on a Friday afternoon. Safe mode boot gives you a system with a minimal number of drivers. Command console boot is even less than that. It gives you direct access to the things on the disk. So these improve the supportability of a system. Kernel mode write protection is something that we've instituted and immediately uncovered a lot of driver problems where drivers were writing to areas of the kernel they weren't permitted to. By restricting that with Windows 2000 and then fixing the drivers, we've enhanced reliability and robustness a great deal. Some of the new hardware support. Hardware is kind of key when you're setting up your system the first time, and then it is something that's important occasionally throughout the life cycle of your system management as you add or enhance the capabilities of your system. The most important work we've done is supporting the ACPI standard, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Universal Serial Bus in 1394. We have multiple display support, so you can have more than one monitor and display card and increase your desktop surface so that you can multitask on one system, multitask your time on one system while the operating system multitasks the applications. Support for the AGP, high performance display adapters, that's a performance enhancement. And support for the Win32 driver model, or WDM, which is the new driver model that we're building for these new classes of devices like USB and 1394. So WDM doesn't replace the existing driver models. It enhances them, and it allows, going forward, new devices and new classes to have better support for the Windows 9X family and the Windows 2000 family at the same time. As you're looking at deploying Windows 2000 Professional, you need to look at the hardware compatibility list. It's just as important as it ever was. The HCL tells you what systems have been tested and issued logos by Microsoft to support Windows 2000. There's a lot of hardware that'll work that isn't on the hardware compatibility list, but it's still the best place to start, and it'll give you an idea of devices that you might want to look at a little more closely if they aren't on the hardware compatibility list. That's available on the internet on the Microsoft.com website. So if you're interested, you can look there. At the very latest, it's updated on a regular basis. We have more legacy device support than NT4, supporting for printers, scanners, and other devices. So we've increased our support for devices in Windows 2000 right out of the box. I referred a minute ago to the ACPI, the Advanced Configuration and Power Interface. A lot of people think that ACPI is just sort of the next generation of advanced power management, or APM, that all it does is offer portables a way to do battery management and turn the power off. ACPI is so much more than that. Basically, ACPI replaces your plug-and-play functionality. It takes over the plug-and-play functionality for device configuration on the system, as well as better power management. And in both cases, it basically lets the operating system do more of the device configuration and the power management, whereas APM will let the BIOS manage the power underneath the operating system. So it's a more robust and more stable way to do power management. And it also does plug and play. So basically, it knows about all the devices in the system. It knows what resources they require. It knows how to turn them off and turn them on individually. And all of this is designed to improve the robustness and improve the performance and reliability of power management. On the mobile platform, using Windows 2000 on a portable computer, I think Windows 2000 is the best mobile platform operating system available today. It has all of the best in power management. We have APM support for a large number of legacy machines. We have the ACPI we just talked about on the new machines. We have a feature for Hibernate and Resume from Hibernate that doesn't even require either the ACPI or the power management features. Hibernate can be enabled on any system with enough disk space, and it provides a very fast way for you to save the system to the disk and shut down the power completely and then resume exactly where you were the next time you turn on your system. So you don't have to close all your applications and shut down, and it's much faster in many cases than a full shutdown and resume and restore. In addition, on the mobile platform, we support infrared file transfers. So if you bring two portables within a few feet of each other, you get a little pop-up on your taskbar, and you can then just say send a file to this other person, and it'll appear right on their desktop. Offline folders is the sort of next generation of technology that was originally conceived as the briefcase in Windows 95. Offline folders means that you don't have to keep a separate folder available for the files that you want to synchronize. You just mark a file that's on a network connection as make it available offline, and that file will automatically synchronize. When you connect to the network, it'll synchronize and put the latest version on the network server and your local disk. As you go offline, you access it directly through the network share as if it were still you were still connected to the corporate LAN. So when you do a file open, it's right where you think it should be, appearing on a network file server, but it's really cached locally on the hard disk. That makes the namespace the same, so that you don't have to know, oh, this file's in the briefcase when I'm on the road, and it's on a file server when I'm connected to the network. And any SMB-based server can automatically cache these files, so it doesn't even require any of the advanced features in Windows 2000 Server. The caching is all done locally by the redirector in the Windows 2000 Professional. Okay, well, one of the interesting features of the mobile platform is the ability to do infrared transfer. I've just been joined by Jocelyn, who's been working with me on this presentation.
Hi.
And she wants to get a copy of the slides that we're going to be presenting so that she can put them on the CD for you. So the easiest thing to do is to take our two portable computers, and we're going to just set them on the table right across from each other. And they're going to actually automatically notice each other, and they've synced up with a little sound and a message that we now have an infrared connection between these two computers. So what this will allow me to do is to take the file that I've got my slides on, and I can either right-click on the icon in the tray, or I can just drag it onto this link that's appeared on my desktop called Wireless Link. And so I just drag it and drop it onto that link. It's going to connect to her machine, and it's actually going to send the file right over, and it's going to appear right on her desktop, or if she selected an alternate location, it could have appeared right in the folder that she wanted IR files to go to. As soon as it's done, the file is going to appear on Jocelyn's desktop. She can open the PowerPoint slides and do whatever she needs to. What's neat about this is no network, no cables, no serial ports, no floppy disks. It's done. And then as she leaves the room and takes her computer with her, the connection is going to disconnect and let me know with the sound that it's no longer available. So that's the IR feature. It's pretty quick. It's pretty easy. There's nothing to it. You don't have to configure anything in advance, and it's ready to go.
Thanks, John.
In the area of security, security is probably the two biggest things that customers ask us for is increased reliability and increased security. We've gone to the standards-based Kerberos security authentication, so that Kerberos is used as the standard for authenticating between workstations and servers. We've added the support for IP security, the ability to have encrypted IP on the LAN so that packets can't be sniffed easily. Smart card authentication, which is a small credit card-like device that you can just plug into a computer and enter a PIN number and use that to log in, so that people are physically tied to the smart card for login instead of just to a username and password. So that can, in a large corporation, can really enhance the security of who's got access to which workstations. Security Configuration Editor provides a way for system administrators to go in, set certain levels of system security, set certain restrictions on their desktops, and then deploy that to their desktops throughout the organization. And finally, kind of a neat feature is the encrypting file system. This allows you to mark directories and files on your local hard disk as being encrypted. It's based on a certificate that's issued by the servers, and then you encrypt based on those certificates. This gives you complete protection for sensitive files and directories. It's a great mobile feature for portable platforms because if you're traveling and your laptop gets stolen, that data is encrypted very securely. So, and then it's transparent to the user as you're using it. You just mark a file and say, I want this to be encrypted. When you log into your system, it enables it to decrypt that file and hand it to you. If you do a file open from any application, it automatically does it for you. So it's transparent to applications, but it prevents people who don't have authorized access to your system from getting to your files. We've taken a look at networking and said, gee, that's a pretty complicated area, and in fact, it's pretty tough to support. It's pretty tough for people to figure out in NT4, and we've really worked on enhancing the ease of use. We install the TCP/IP protocol by default. That's pretty much the default protocol that most people are using these days, so it's almost always available. We've simplified the user interface for both LAN access, if you need to configure any settings for the network LAN, and for the RAS for dialing connections and for setting up the ability to dial different connections. We've worked on reducing the administrative cost of networking by using a common MMC user interface, the Microsoft Management Console, for the different network server features such as RAS, Dynamic Host Control Protocol, and DNS, and we've improved the diagnostic support. Another thing that you may not think about right off the bat, but it's actually really key, is plug-and-play and power management support in networking. The networking stack in the system, the different redirectors, the stack, the protocols, and the network card drivers all need to be aware of a system where devices can come and go as you dock and undock in a docking portable scenario, or pull out a PCMCIA card. Or if you just power manage the system by putting it into a hibernate or sleep state, something that you can do on a portable or a desktop. So you need to be able to dynamically load and unload all of your network protocols, all your network stacks. And that took a lot of changes to Windows 2000 to enable these features that makes networking just work, so that we automatically handle your files across a network connection when we power manage it. We've also enhanced it with the ability to wake up on LAN, so that you can have a system suspend at night, and the network administrators can still wake a system up to do system inventories or system management. We've improved the connectivity. Remote access supports the enhanced authentication protocol, the Radius servers, which is a standard for dial-in servers, and the BACP protocol, which is another protocol used on dial-up. So if your servers want to use these new protocols, you can take advantage of it. In virtual private networking, we still support PPTP, the original Windows NT 4 standard for VPNs. We've also added support for the latest L2TP tunneling protocol, the level 2 tunneling protocol, that's becoming the new standard for setting up a virtual private network. A VPN allows you to connect to the internet at any point in the world, and then make a secure connection back to your corporate LAN, and your PC, although it's connected to the internet locally, appears to you to be connected to your corporate LAN without compromising security. Routing, which allows us to do multicast forwarding, IGMP proxy, and most importantly for the Windows 2000 professional environment, internet connection sharing. Internet connection sharing is a great feature for a small business where they want to put in one DSL or cable modem tap, set up a workstation to share that connection with 2 or 3 other workstations. They don't need to set up and configure a dedicated Windows 2000 server, and yet everybody on their corporate LAN can share that one connection. You can also do this at home in small homes environments where you set up a networking and you have a Windows 2000 professional as your primary desktop. Some of the TCP performance improvements, I referred to some of these in the performance slide. We've improved the large window support for data, selective acknowledgement, which allows the packets to become out of sync and still keep synchronized acknowledgements. Estimation on round trip, so that the times and the delays can be set. All of these enhance the performance of TCP/IP when working across less than perfect network environments. Quality of support is a feature where you can set a desired bandwidth. So if you're watching a presentation, such as this multimedia presentation that you're watching right now, across a network corporate LAN from a server, and you want to guarantee a certain level of bandwidth so that the video and audio don't get choppy, you can set up a system called QoS that will allow you to define the bandwidth for that application and keep it streaming through it at full speed. Indus 5 offers improvements to the networking stack. Some of the biggest areas in Indus 5 for the device driver guys are support for plug-and-play and power management. ATM support is a networking protocol that the switched asynchronous transfer mode networks. We've included the latest TAPI telephony APIs and support for telephony systems on Windows 2000. NetMeeting 3.01 for people who are doing NetMeeting teleconferencing. Internet printing is something that the networking enables you to print to an internet print share. It's a new standard that's been made available in the last couple of years, where you can print to internet-based print servers. And of course, network interoperability. We've continued to keep the best in network interoperability with Novell NetWare and the Services for Unix add-on. In managing local machines, this is an area where we talk about reducing the total cost of ownership and generating managed environments. The Windows Installation Service allows applications to install and manage their files and do it dynamically. This is a local service. It's not something that requires a server to use the Windows installation service, although you can deploy it on a Windows 2000 server. And it's one of the things we've done to prevent sort of the well-known DLL hell where applications and operating systems can get their sort of shared DLLs out of sync. And Windows Installation Service provides a way to manage those shared DLLs. System file protection is the ability of the operating system to manage those DLLs so that files that ship in the base operating system are always protected by the operating system and can't be replaced with an older version by an application that comes along and doesn't pay attention to versions, something we've had a problem with in the past, and this is one of the key things we're doing to help enhance the stability and robustness of the system by preventing sort of random DLL replacement of operating system files. Run as is a feature that allows you to have users with limited permissions on their systems, and if your system admins go up and need to do something that requires an administrator privilege, you can use the run as command, which is available on right click on a lot of executables or from the command line. And what this will do is allow you to log in and give that process or that program the higher level privileges of the user that's logging in without having to completely log out of the current user's environment and then log in as a new user. So it's something that has a lot of benefits for managing a system in a corporate network environment. Again, we've talked about in managing a machine, the diagnostic boot options, and the management infrastructure, DMI, Windows Management Interface, and WBEM. Okay, we were just talking about the new security features and the ability to use run as a way to run things in a context of an administrator or a local machine or a network administrator. Here I've created a shortcut to the computer management MMC snap-in, and on this computer, if I were not the system administrator, if this was a user's computer, I can come up to this, open it up, do run as, and select the local administrator or the system administrator name, password, domain, and log in, and run the computer management snap-in as if I had logged out and logged in as that new user. You can also do run as from the command prompt. If you open a command prompt, you can just enter the command run as. For information on that, you can just do help run as, and you can just do you can do run as with a question mark, and that will give you the run as command syntax and how to use it. So that's it for the run as demo, and we'll move on. Thank you. And so that's it. Thank you very much. I hope this overview of Windows 2000 Professional has given you sort of a taste of some of the different areas we've done innovation, and we've added value, made it easier to use, made it more powerful, and that you should be thinking about Windows 2000 when you're deploying Windows in your environment, both separately from a Windows 2000 server and infrastructure deployment and in conjunction with it where you get the additional power and features that are offered. Thank you very much.